All right. Good morning, gentlemen. Today is Daf Kaf Tes in Maseches Psachim. So yesterday's and today's blot. So we actually got a little bit down on Shabbos's Daf. We got to the two dots, which is maybe around a quarter of the way down. So one last statement from our previous Mishnah, and then we're going to get to a new Mishnah to discuss today. So he said over there, Chacham say over there. So Rabbi Yehuda, I believe, was the first shita. He said the only way to get rid of chametz is to burn it. And we had a whole question in the Gemara. Where does he learn it from? We tried to learn out his logic from other cases from Neisar, where it requires burning. So then the question over here was, Chacham say you can go ahead mifarer v'zayre. Right? Mifarer means to go ahead and crumble it. And then it says zayre, and he goes ahead and he throws it into the wind or throws it into the sea. So you boil two dots on Kavches Aleph. So it says Iboilu Heichi Kamar. What's he saying? Is it Mifarer v'zayre l'ruach u'mifarer meitil yam? Does he mean that you have to crumble it, then you can throw it into the wind and it blows away, or you crumble it and throw it into the sea? Or does it mean you go ahead and you crumble it and you throw it into the wind? We can go ahead and throw it into the sea as is, right? And the sea eventually will go bad. You don't have to crumble it before that. But and so by Avodah Zarah it says, you go ahead and you pulverize, you destroy, right? You grind up Avodah Zarah and you throw it into the wind, and then it says or into the sea. And we boil in the answer there. Hey, what's the case of there? Right? Doesn't mean that you both cases you grind it and then you throw it into the wind or into the sea. Does that mean that you can go ahead, but if you throw it into the wind, then since it's going to be on the land still, so therefore you have to go ahead and grind it and pulverize it and then throw it into the wind. But when it comes to the sea, right, no one's going to get it, and therefore you can just toss it as is into the sea. So Amar Rabba says, Rabba Mistabra. Avodah Zarah Dilyam Hamelach Ka'azla Loibay Shchika. So when it comes, so it says over there. Trying to see what it says. Okay, so it says over there in the case of Avodah Zarah, if he's throwing into the Yam HaMelech, right into the Dead Sea, Loibay Shchika. Over there, you don't go ahead and you need to go ahead and grind it. Why? Because in the Yam HaMelech, right, there's no travelers there, right? The people aren't traveling in the Yam HaMelech. And since people are not traveling in the Yam HaMelech, right, as Rashi says, ain't Sfina Veresbo, right? There's no boats in there. So therefore, you're not worried other people are going to find it. So therefore, you can go ahead and throw it as is. However, chametz to the shar naras kazil, but when it comes to the chametz, right, we're talking about bodies of water, right? People live near local rivers, so then it might end up by other travelers. Therefore, you have to go ahead and crumble it and destroy it. And Amalei Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yivcha mistaber. He says no, fakert, right? Pum fakert. Avodah zarah delay misi b'shchika. Right, avodah zarah, which does not go ahead and melt in the water, dissolve. So therefore, you have to go ahead and destroy it. But bread or the like, right? That should be something that you should need to go ahead and destroy. Chametz the mace, right? Since that becomes gross, right, in water, therefore lo by piru. Therefore, in that case, you shouldn't need to go ahead and crumble up bread, right? You should only be able to have to the avodah zarah. And Tani Kavasi the Rabbah and Tani Kavasi the Rabbi Yosef. You have a Bryson support of Rabbah who said that avodah zarah, right? You can just toss it, but chametz you have to go ahead and crumble it. And with Bryson support of Rabbi Yosef, that said the opposite. That chametz you don't need to crumble it because it gets gross on its own, but avodah zarah you do. So Tani Kavasi the Rabbah the first way. If he's walking in the midbar with chametz, then he goes ahead and he crumbles and he tosses into the wind. And hayam mahalech b'sfina, or if he was in a boat mifar meitil yam, he basically can go ahead and crumble and tosses it into the sea. So you see over here that clearly that you toss into the sea, you have to go ahead and crumble it first. Why? Because there's other people traveling in the sea, and therefore they might find it. And Tanya Kabasi Rabbi Yosef, he has a bicep in support of Rabbi Yosef. If one was walking the midbar, ruach, he goes in and he crumbles it, and he tosses it into the wind. And haya mahalech b'sfina sheichik. All right. If he was traveling in a boat, then he goes ahead and he has to go ahead and destroy it into the sea. So you see over here clearly it says if you're throwing it into the sea, right, you have to go ahead and destroy it. So the Gemara says, if that's the case, shchika kasha l'rabba and peira kasha Rav Yosef. So if that's the case, the two opposite brises, right, pose kashas to destroying it to Rabba, and the case of crumbling it into the chametz is a kasha in Rav Yosef because he doesn't have to. So shchika l'rabba lo kasha holy Yam Melech holy Sharnaros. It's different. If it's the Yam Melech is different because there's no travelers there. So to Yam Melech, therefore you don't have to go ahead and grind anything, right? But when it comes to other rivers, there you have to go ahead and grind it because since Avodah Zarah doesn't just, it goes in water, it doesn't, dissolve in water. So therefore, if it's any body of water where someone else might find, therefore you have to go ahead and grind it down before disposing of it in the sea. And Peir Rav Yosef like kasha, and also the case of Rav Yosef is like kasha. It says, right, you have to go ahead, and why would you have to go ahead and crumble bread? Doesn't bread, food get gross in the water, and therefore no one's going to eat it. So it says, ha bechiti ha benama. If we're talking about kernels, right, wheat kernels, then wheat kernels don't get bad in water. People can pick it up and use it. So therefore, those you have to grind. But when it comes to, let's say, a loaf of bread, when tossed in the sea, that will be disgusting. So such a loaf, you will not have to go ahead and destroy first or crumble it first before tossing it and disposing it. Fine. Stop here or get it at Naya Mishnah. I was about to say, I got to go. In 5 more minutes, my son doesn't come down. I got to make sure he's up for yeshiva. But let's go on. Naya Mishnah. So Mishnah on the bottom of
Naya Mishnah.
Kavches Amud Aleph, around is 7 lines from the bottom. Chametz shel nachri she'avar alav haPesach. So this is going to be the discussion we're going to be discussing today. This is going to be machlekes Tanaim when it comes to chametz. So chametz shel nachri. So first, our mission is talking about that of the nachri she'avar alav haPesach muter b'hana. So chametz that was owned by a guy, right, over Pesach, so after Pesach, muter b'hana, one is allowed to get hana from it. The shel Yisrael aser b'hana. And that of Yisrael is aser b'hana, shenamar, and the Gemara brings the pasuk. We'll soon later on question lo yireh lecha sor. The pasuk over there in Parshas Bo, right? I'm just going to read from the pasuk which is brought down. It says matzah yechel shivas hayomim. Right, so for matzah you eat for 7 days. V'lo yireh lecha chametz, v'lo yireh lecha sor b'chol galecha. You should not see chametz, you should not see sor in all your borders. So we learn from over there that l'chayra it's going in part that shel Yisrael is aser b'hana because of lo yireh lecha. Fine. So that was the Mishnah. So after Pesach, mutter for a nachri and aser hana of a Jew. That's what our Mishnah says and brings the pasuk. Fine. Now mani mas nisim. Who is the author of our Mishnah? Lo Rabbi Yehuda, velo Rabbi Shimon, velo Rabbi Yosef Glili. We're going to have 3 Tanaim. We're going to go through probably for the next amud or so and discuss what they hold when it comes to chametz on Pesach, during, after, right? And we'll see that l'chayra, none of them really shtim with our Mishnah. We'll explain why. So Mani Mas Nisan, it's not like Rabbi Yehuda. It doesn't seem to be Rabbi Shimon. Doesn't seem to be Rabbi Yosef Glili. So Mahi, where do you see this? The Tanya ben Brisa chametz. So when it comes to chametz, bein lifnei zmano, bein lachar zmano. So we're before or after Pesach, and when we say before, is referring to the 6 hours before, and after Pesach, referring to after, right? After 7 days of Pesach. So bein lifnei zmano, bein lachar zmano, over alav belav, right? One would violate to what's it called? One gets. In such a case, if he would eat it, he would over belav. Toich zmano over alav belav ukaris. And it's during the zman, right? If he eats it, then he violates a lav and also karis, right? During Pesach. Div Rabbi Yehuda. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, it's aser before, it's aser after, and it's aser during. All right, and aser during carries the karis. Right, that was the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Shimon Amir, and Rabbi Shimon says, right? Turn the page. Chometz lifnei zmano la'achar zmano ein over alav b'loi klum. Teich zmano over alav b'karei subalav. So Rabbi Shimon, right, who says that no, chometz before Pesach and after Pesach, he's not violated anything, right? Ein over klum, right? Only and however teich zmano during Pesach, right? And then Gemara is going to explain each of the shitas. And Teich over alav b'karei subalav. But during the Zman, it'll be Karis Valav. It just doesn't carry. So Rabbi Shimon argues with Rabbi Yehuda regarding before and after. Right? Rabbi Yehuda said before and after is Aser. Rabbi Shimon says before and after is Mutter. Umisha Aser B'achila Aser B'hana. And by the way, from when it's Aser B'achila, it's also Aser B'hana. right? So if you hold it's mutter before and after, that means, right, mutter bechila before and after, that means also mutter b'hana. And also in the Tanakama, right? And that must go according to the Tanakama, because the Tanakama said there was an Isser before and after, right? As opposed to Rabbi Yehuda said there's an Isser before and after, as opposed to Rabbi Shimon. So therefore, there's also Isser Bahana, also before and after. And Rabbi Yossi had Glili holds, right? The third sheet that we've actually hinted Rabbi Yossi Glili before. Hey, chametz aser b'hana kol shiva, right? It's a question. How could you say the chametz is aser b'hana the entire 7 days, right? He holds that Rabbi Yossi Glili holds that actually chametz during Pesach is muter b'hana. U'minayin lo eichel chametz b'sheish shal yisrael ma'alo. And now the Brisa continues and it says, and from where do we know that one who eats chametz b'sheish shal yisrael ma'alo shehu ayvir b'lo yisaseh? And what's the pasuk that we see that person violates lo yisaseh of lifnei Pesach? Of we just described the lifnei zamano, before the zman, which we said is erev Pesach, right? The 6 hours before, from chatzos until evening. So how do you know one goes and eats chametz there from the 6 hours and that he violates lo yisaseh? Shnei, the pasuk says lo yiseichel alav chametz, right? The pasuk says over there, referring to the current Pesach of the pasuk brought in Dvarim, it says over there. I'm just going to read the pasuk inside. Lo yiseichel alav chametz shivas yomim toichel alav matzos lechem ayne ki chapazon yatzaz mitzrayim. Right. So it discusses over there, right, the talking about the current Pesach, and it says don't eat chametz. So it sounds like don't eat chametz during the time the current Pesach is brought. When is it offered? It's offered right on erev Pesach. So therefore, it gives you isser of achilos matzah belav on erev Pesach. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. That's the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, right? That was the first opinion we discussed. And Amru lo Rabbi Shimon v'chiyav shalom marchein. Can you say this? It says lo yiseichel alav chametz shivas yamim techol matzos. It says over there, right? You should not have chametz with it, right? You should have, and eat chametz for 7 days. If that's the case, what do you the first pasuk? Because this pasuk also hints that before Pesach also. So if that's the case, what's the first pasuk telling you? So right? When there's a zman to go ahead and eat matzah, that's when there is a lav, right? Not the chametz. Right? But when there is no requirement, right, to eat matzah, right, then there is no Isser Chametz. So according to Rabbi Shimon, right, so Rabbi Yehuda says that the Isser of Chametz is even before Pesach, right, because it says during the Zman of Karim Pesach. Rabbi Shimon argues and says no, the Isser of Achilas Matzah, right, the Isser of Achilas Chametz is only when you're obligated to eat matzah. Therefore, the Isser of Chametz only applies on Pesach and not before or after, right? Well, my time with Rabbi Yehuda. So that was, now this is a discussion between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon. So their main machlokes is before and after, but they both agree on during. So my time with Rabbi Yehuda, what's the reason Rabbi Yehuda says also before? So classic correct TV. The Psukim it says lo yeyachel chametz. Then it says kol machmas is lo yisachelu. And the third pasuk of lo yisachel of chametz, don't eat with the chametz. So chalif neizmano. 3 psukim to indicate 3 times. One before, one in the middle is a lav and kares, and the one after also there. If you go ahead and you eat chametz after Pesach that was owned by a Jew, that is also you have violated a lav of le'achar zmano. Rabbi Shimon, and what would Rabbi Shimon say to the requirement of the 3 psukim? All right, so chal l'seich zmano. Right, one is during this.
Didn't we say that when maybe I'm misunderstanding something? Didn't we say that when it repeats the language more than once, then that becomes specific to that item? Meaning, didn't we say that a couple like a week ago? Like when you said so teachel or whatever, we were talking about getting enough from something. We said that if it repeats it more than once, then it turns into not specific to that item, not a general rule. Is that
we hit? No, what we had was Shnei
talking about Klal and Prat.
I think it was not Shnei B'Ayin Kechad he's asking on.
Oh, right? Okay.
Right. So when you have specific, but that was talking about one specific mitzvah and to apply it to other mitzvahs, right? This is not a concept by one mitzvah. That was like in general, like if you can't eat something, are you allowed to get hana? But this is something different. This is talking about the Torah is giving an isser. There's different psukim of don't eat chametz. So, okay, you already told me once. Why do you got to tell me again and again? Over there was telling a rule about the halacha, and that rule maybe could be established to other places. Over here, right, we're saying, don't, Kenny chametz. I was okay. Why?
It's the same thing. Why? Okay,
Right.
the same thing. And then, okay, I got you. Okay.
Now,
Thank
for
you.
Rabbi Shimon, what would Rabbi Shimon say? Why the three psukim? So chad the seichs man. It says the first one we said is to be the Isser, which Rabbi Shimon agrees with Rabbi Huda that says there's an Isser during the Zman of Pesach. And then the pasuk of V'chol machmetzes, which was the second pasuk, that actually he needs it for something else. I only know chametz that it itself rose and right then became chametz. However, something else that maybe that was used with it. Let's say someone put a starter or whatever, right, in order to help another leavening agent to cause it to become chametz. So machmas davar acher minayin. So therefore it says kol machmetzes lo yisachel. Any machmetzes, anything that leavens, even if it's something else caused it to go ahead and rise and to hichmitz, such a thing is also forbidden to go ahead and consume on Pesach. And lo yechel chametz miboile, and the pasuk of lo yechel chametz also is miboile. We also need to do something else. The Kiddutani learn in Brisa Rabbi Yossi Aglili Yomer. Minan the Pesach Mitzrayim she'ein chimutza noeg el yom echad. Where do we know, right, that the one time, right, Pesach and Mitzrayim, i.e., the year that they left Egypt, right, that the Isser of Chametz was only one day, only the first day. It says over there, you're showing Chametz, and today you leave. In other words, over there, right, is more of a historical point and argument, not halacha basis for future generations, because it's no nafmina for future generations. But according to Rabbi Yossi's drasha, is that the Isra of Chametz only applied to the first day, but not after the first day when they got into when they were traveling out of Mitzrayim. So that was the use of the three psukim, right? It wasn't to tell you Isra Achil in the other cases, but it was that. Now, so Rabbi Huda question is, okay, where do he knows these two halachas? So machmas davar acher ole. So first of all, how does he know that chametz, even if it was leavened by something else, right? Someone used something else to go ahead and cause it to rise. So where do we know that's aser? So midafki rachmana b'lashon machmetzes. The fact that he says kol machmetzes lo yisachil. Why did you say kol chametz lo yisachil? Since he used kol machmetzes, so therefore we can also learn that anything which rises even from something else. And Rabbi Yossi Aglili Minale, and that halacha of Rabbi Yossi Aglili, who taught that the chametz was not only one day during during Yetzias Mitzrayim. If you can say either he used it from the word hayom, right? Hayom, just today, right? Or or you can say maybe he doesn't darshan it, and therefore maybe Taki doesn't hold like Rabbi Ziglili that chametz was aser only one day. Maybe chametz was aser the standard. Fine. Omar Mar. So he says, so where do we see that one who eats after noon, right, on Erev Pesach, that he violates a loisase? The pasuk says, loiseichel alav chametz. Chametz div Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Yehuda and Amar Rabbi Shimon. How could you say it? Like for nemar loiseichel alav chametz shivas yamim tochel alav matzos. Right? It says over there, right, that you should not go ahead and eat chametz. You should eat matzah. So the two of them are the same. That whenever there is the chiyuv of eating matzah, there is the isser of chametz. Rabbi Yehuda shabi kamar le Rabbi Shimon. So Rabbi Yehuda, right? It's a pretty good question from Rabbi Shimon. So Rabbi Yehuda he says no. That over there is telling you that even bezman hazeh, then even when there is no korban pesach, right? There's no korban pesach being brought, right? Maybe you think that there is no isser anymore of chametz when there's no korban pesach, right? So therefore, to tell you that even bizman hazeh, there is a mitzvah of achilas matzah and isser of chametz without the korban pesach. Rabbi Shimon, the kaiva chayva minale, and where does Rabbi Shimon know that even without the korban pesach there is a chiyuv for matzah? So nafle may be'erev teichlu. It says over there from erev teichlu. Rabbi Yehuda mi boy. So why isn't Rabbi Yehuda use the pasuk of erev teichlu? Rabbi Yehuda mi boy l'tami, to teach us halacha by a person's tummy. L'tami shayav b'derech ha'chayka, and if he was far away, so maybe you think, right, if he's far away, right, or he's tummy, that therefore since he doesn't bring the korban pesach, maybe he then doesn't go ahead and know mitzvah of achilas matzah. So kamash malan, he has the mitzvah the achilas matzah. I Rabbi Shimon Tamar v'Shayab derech chayka la yitzakra. And according to Rabbi Shimon, so why don't you use the pasuk for that? So how does he know someone who's tamei or somebody who's far away that he's still nevertheless, even though he's not bringing the Korban Pesach, he's nevertheless obligated in the mitzvah of eating matzah? So he says la yitzakra, that he doesn't need a pasuk for. Why? To like garami arel, right? He's no worse than arel ben nechar. The chesiv says there v'chol arel la yochel bo, right? It says over there that an arel, right, should not go ahead and eat from the Korban Pesach. So bohu ein oichel va'oichelhu matzah umar. But so it says over there that arel is only pater from the Korban Pesach, but he's nevertheless he's still obligated in matzah maror, right? No different than somebody who would be tamei or somebody who was far away and not able to partake in the Korban Pesach, right? Rabbi Huda ksiv b'hai, and Rabbi Huda says no. Even though, nevertheless, that really you could learn now. Nevertheless, it wrote it in both psukim to teach you that there is a chiyuv matzah both by an arel and by a person who's tamei or a person who is in a derech chayka. Fine. Now, so if you recall, right, we prefaced that we had our Mishnah, right, and our Mishnah said, remember, our Mishnah said that after Pesach, right, chametz of a nachri is mutter, chametz of a Jew is aser, and he brought a pasuk. And then we said our Mishnah, who was alike, it can't be like Rabbi Huda, can't be like Rabbi Shimon, can't be like Glili, and then we brought in the Bryce of basically, which is 1 amud long of their shitas. Now we're going to get back to apply. Okay, who is going to be the author of our Mishnah? So Mani Masnisan, who is the author of our Mishnah? So bottom line on the page, so it says Mani Masnisan I Rabbi Yehuda chametz stomach hamar afilo denachri. So what would be the problem if it was Rabbi Yehuda? So it said over there that when Rabbi Yehuda in the Bryce says chametz is aser, right? He does not distinguish or differentiate between a nachri and Yisrael. So l'chayra, everybody would be aser, right? But our Mishnah says nachri is mutter. So therefore it's problematic to say it's Rabbi Yehuda. If it's Rabbi Shimon, turn the page. Yisrael nami mishur kashari, right? Rabbi Shimon Beferish said, right, one is mutter bahana for a chametz that was owned by a Jew over Pesach. And the Rabbi said Glili, and everybody said Glili, forget about it, right? Afilu toiksmano nami mishur kashari bahana, right? Not only does he say that the chametz is mutter bahana after Pesach, right? But even chametz owned by another Jew is mutter bahana during Pesach. So obviously it doesn't seem like it's Rabbi Yosef Glili. So Amar Rav Acha Bar Yaakov Li'olam Rabbi Yehuda. Really, it's Rabbi Yehuda. So the kasha in Rabbi Yehuda was, our Mishnah seems to say that a nachri is mutter and Yisrael is aser, but Rabbi Yehuda did not seem to make any sort of distinction between the two. V'yalev sa'or de'achila masor de'riyah. And he also, and Rabbi Yehuda learns, right, the halacha, right, the isser of achila from the isser of re'iyah. Masor de'riyah shachayat haroya va'ata roya shalacherim v'shalgavoha. When it comes to sa'or, right, then it says that you're not allowed to go ahead and see, right? It says bal yirah, right? You can't see your own chametz, right? Because you can't own the chametz, but you're allowed to go ahead. There's no isser of seeing other belonging to Gayim, right, of Acherim or Gavoha. Asar dechila. So too, the sar of the achila shachayata eichel, right? You can't go ahead and eat your own shachayata eichel v'ata eichel shalacherim v'shal Gavoha. But you could go ahead and eat or benefit, right, and get hana from others, right, after the zman, right, not during the zman, right, and therefore basically it's teaching you that you can't get hana from your seor right after Pesach, but you could get hana from seor of acher of a nachri, and therefore that would make sense with the Mishnah, right? And really, it should have said in our Mishnah right, that even right, maybe chametz, right, that even be'achila would also be mutter, right? To go ahead and right to eat because it's not included in seor, right? And since it said we're talking about to get mutter b'hana, right, of a Yisrael, since it says a Yisrael is us right now, so therefore it said nachri mutter b'hana. And even should have said that maybe it was even toich zman would be mutter. But since over there right? What's the reason why it says tochas mano? But since over there is taught that achar mano is usher, so therefore it says when it comes to a nachri, leachar mano is mutter. Just Rashi for 1 second. Fine. So according to this, right? According to this case, so that we really could have stated, according to Rabbi Huda L'char, if you learn that the Isser of Seor has no shaychus, right, with Nachri, right? Now, since Bal Yirah, Bal Yimatzi does not apply by that of Nachri, therefore, L'char, it could come out, according to Rabbi Huda, right, that you would be able to eat, right, chametz that was owned by a Nachri, or a Chayrim, right, on Pesach, not only get Hana afterwards, but even to go ahead and during, right? But it didn't state that because we were talking about the halachas of Hana when it comes to Yisrael before and after. So that's why I didn't state it. But according to this logic, right? We'll soon see. It will be chayzer from this logic. Rav Acha bar Yaakov will be chayzer from it. But according to this logic, it means that all the Yisurim of chametz that we said, yes, Rabbi Yehuda is very machmer, but it's only with the Yisrael. But when it comes to that of a nachri, so therefore the Isser does not apply of any chametz owned by a nachri, whether before, during, or after, whether achila or hana.
But
So
doesn't, hang on, doesn't it only say Hana would be mutter during Pesach? It doesn't say Achila.
Right, no, but then it says, right? So, according to this logic, because if you link the two, right, and if you link the two and says that the pasuk of Seor, right, of Shiyat HaOichel is only referring, so then there is no Isser on Seor of an Achri, right? It's only your own Seor. But the Gemara, we'll assume the Gemara is going to come off this Havamim. Now, and Rav Amar, Liyel Rabbi Shimon, maybe we can say our mission is Rabbi Shimon. So our problem with Rabbi Shimon was, the Rabbi Shimon says is Yisrael is mutter lifnei and afterwards, right? So the Rabbi Shimon kanasa kanis, and really Rabbi Shimon just gives a kanas. Really, it's mutter bahana. It's mutter medaraisa bahana of chametz that was owned by a Jew lachar Pesach, but he penalizes one for owning it. Right? Since he violates by Rabbi Yimatze, therefore we go ahead and we penalize him. Now, according to Rabbi, it says now, if you look as you remember, as you recall, I mentioned there was a pasuk brought, right? The pasuk was brought at the end. It said by Yisrael's aser bahana, shenamar, as the pasuk says, lo yireh lucha seor, right? You shouldn't go ahead and see seor. So bishlam l'rava hainutani shal Yisrael aser mishum shenamar lo yireh, right? Because over there it's giving you the penalty, right? Since you're over bal yirah bal yimatzeh, therefore we're going to penalize you and say it's aser bahana after Pesach, right? Well, Elo Rav Acha bar Yaakov, according to Rav Acha bar Yaakov, who says that, right, that the whole Isser afterwards, right? He says Mishum lo yechal chametz miboile, right? He said over there that the Isser of Hana is the same as the Chila because they go hand in hand. So it shouldn't have been from the Isser of Shenamar lo yereh lecha. It should have been from the Isser of lo yechal chametz, right? So why didn't it bring the pasuk of lo yechal chametz? So Gemara says, so Gemara answers, no, misvaras aseva koy. Who says that the reason for the pasuk is we're bringing it because Yisrael's aser b'hana because of le'irah l'chachametz? No, it has nothing to do with that. That's actually referring to a reisha koy. It's going on the reisha. This means to say chametz shel nachi shavar lav hapesach muter b'hana. Any chametz owned by a goy, right? It would be muter b'hana mishum shinar because the pasuk said le'irah l'cha shacha yataroy aval ataroy shalcher b'shagavoa. The yalif sar dechila misar deria, right? And in other words, that you should not go ahead and see. You should not see any chametz, only yours. But when it comes to that of a guy or that of hektish, right? That will be mutter. And there we learn that sar for mechila, that just like by seeing is mutter, so to the achila would also be mutter. The ozdo l'tamayu, and they both go l'shitaso, both Rav Acha bar Yaakov and Rava. Tamar that we learned ha'oichel seor shel nachri she'over lav Pesach l'divrei Rabbi Yehuda. Now, one who goes ahead and has seor of a nachri after Pesach, according to Rabbi Yehuda, right? What is the halacha there? Rav Amar Loike, Rava says the guy gets malchus. Rav Acha bar Yaakov Amar Eina Loike, and he says no, you don't get malchus, right? Because remember, Rava was the one who said our mission is really Rabbi Shimon. And really, according to Rabbi Yehuda, he would also it's aser midraisa. So and Rav Amar like it. Why? Lo yelef Rabbi Yehuda sar dechil misar deria. right? See, he doesn't learn the drasha of achila from a guy to Riyah, and therefore he holds that there is a deraisa, and therefore one would get malchus. Rav Acha bar Yaakov Amar ain't like because Yaliv Sar de Achila v'Sar de Riyah, he does learn the Sar from Achila from Sar Riyah, and therefore he says, and therefore in that case we say that when it comes to a guy, therefore it's pater because we only know only your Sar and not that of a Cherem, and therefore will be pater according to Rabbi Yehuda. However, that which we say, Rav Acha bar Yaakov says completely any chametz owned or by a guy can be eaten or mutar ba'ana was only a pipe dream. It was not. He was chayz from it. V'hoder be Rav Acha bar Yaakov mihahi. The Tanya, he learned he was chayz from that. With sunsi brisa, we're going to have a brisa, and we're going to have several different pshatim in there, and we'll see from the pshat of Rav Acha bar Yaakov why he was chayzer from this shita. So let's sort of put it on a shelf. Now we'll go into this new case. The Tanya, we're learning the brisa. Ha'oichel chametz shel hekdesh b'moed mal. One who goes ahead and eats chametz of hekdesh during the moed, he is mal. V'yeshem lo mal. And some say he has not violated Milah. Now, questions like this. A person to violate Milah, right? He has to take something of value and use that which is of value for his own personal benefit. So in order to be chai for Milah on chametz, you have to have, there is value to whatever he's using, okay? So now remember, if you have, right, the opinion that chametz on Pesach is basically void, null, and worthless, okay, then you can't violate, you can't be over Milah, right? So there has to be some sort of value to this part of Hekdesh. So we have to see what's going on here, what's the reason for Milah and Lomo. So Ha'oichel chametz and Hekdesh. So Moed, the Tanakama says Mo, and the Yeshomer says Lo Mo. So now Man Yeshomer. Who is this Yeshomer? So Rabbi Yechanan says Rabbi Yechanan. Here comes the first explanation. Rabbi Nechunya ben Hikna. The Tanya Rabbi Nechunya ben Hikna says Yom Kippurim k'Shabbos l'tashlumin. So he would make Yom Kippur just like Shabbos when it comes to payment, right? One who's chayav, let's say two things at the same time. Ma Shabbos mischayev benasho pater min tashlumin, just like on Shabbos, Rabbi Nachman, all the intricacies. But on Shabbos, one violates something, and the same time, right? He's obligated to pay. Is also the same time he was mischayev benasho. He violated and he's chayev misa. So we say, right? He gets the marchiv. So he's chayev benafsho, right? He's pater tashlum. Af Yom Kippurim, so too Yom Kippur mischayev benafsho pater min tashlum, right? So too he's chayev with his own life, and therefore he's pater tashlum, right? And therefore, in this case, we can say over here that who is the man, the Yeshem lo mal, right? So now the Yeshem says he's not violating Milah. Right? Now, why is he not violating Milah, right? Because he's already chayiv kares for eating chametz, right? So if you're chayiv kares, right, for eating chametz, right, you're not chayiv any sort of financial payment, right? So that was one pshat. Now, Rav Yosef Amar, the paydin as a kachel achila and the kalavim kamiflagi, right? Whether we say that something has a value, whether you can redeem it for the purposes of feeding a dog. Now, you can't go ahead and use it, the chametz, right? But maybe I can go ahead and redeem it from hekdesh and feed it to dogs. So man domer mal, one holds the mal ksaver paydin lactation achila kalavim. Since there's value to go ahead, you're allowed to go ahead and redeem something to give it to animals, right? So to here, you can redeem it for the purposes of animal food. So therefore, it does have some sort of value. Since it has value, you would violate Milah. Uman demer lo mal, right? Ksaver ain't paydin, and the other says Milah. No, that since hekdesh is not something that should go ahead and be redeemed and sent to the dog, so therefore there is no value in this because you can't go ahead and use it, and the only usage would be right, basically to go ahead and feed an animal the chametz on Pesach, and therefore you would be in this case you would be pater from Milah. And Rav Acha bar Rava Tanila, and he learned over here laha. Shmaitza, Bishmei Rav Yosef, Kalishna. So he learned a similar version of what we just said, but a little different. Everyone agrees you're not allowed to go ahead and redeem something for the purpose of feeding animals. Right? Something, right, that can lead to money. Is that considered to be money or not? Right? Is this since it's over here in this case, right? Can eventually, right, be money, right? And since it could eventually be money, therefore it's like it's money now. Therefore, if I go ahead and use it, even though it's worthless now, but after Pesach, maybe there's a value to it. And therefore, that's like causing a loss to hektish. Therefore, I'll be violating Milah, right? Well, the one who says he didn't violate Milah, right? That since right now it's worthless because there's no value on Pesach. Even later on, it might be a value. So to use it now is still using something valueless. If you use something valueless belonging to Hektish, you have not used anything of value belonging to Hektish, therefore you'd be potter. And now this is why we bring it in, all right? And Rav Acha bar Yaakov Amar, Dekuli Alma, Davar Hagari Labamon Kamamon Dami. If you cause a loss to something which will eventually be money, that is considered to be causing a loss. Over here, they're arguing, right? Actually, between the status of the chametz, right, between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon. Man Domer Lo Mal Rabbi Yehuda, the one who says there is no me'ilah, holds like Rabbi Yehuda, right, who says that since you can't eat it, Rabbi Yehuda says since you can't eat it after Pesach, therefore there's no value. Lo Mal. Uman Domer Mal, and the one who says Mal, Rabbi Shimon holds like Rabbi Shimon. Right? And it will hold that it was mutter afterwards. Since it's mutter afterwards, so by using it now, you've caused loss then, right? So now, what do we see over here? What's the kasha? Rav Acha bar Yaakov hu damar, right? The Rabbi Yehuda yaliv sor de achilim sor de ria, right? Why does he say, right, that why over here is he talking about that you're causing something to be a loss to hektish? Because afterwards, it'll be mutter. If according to Rav Acha bar Yaakov, you can go ahead and have it now, right? Why is he discussing Davar HaGoren L'Mamon Kamamon Dami? He should just say that on Pesach there is a value because if you learn that of Hektish, there is no Isser to it, right? Rabbi Yehuda Yaliv Sor Dechilim Sor Derio, right? So how could you say that according to him, really one who eats it, L'Charab, is Chayiv Me'ilah because why? Because Chametz Shel Hektish is Mutter Bechila on Pesach. Elamai, it must be Elohodr be Rav Acha bar Yaakov Mihahi. Rather, it must be that Rav Acha bar Yaakov was chayzer, and he did not learn the achila of chametz is mutter on Pesach, right? Just like a guy is mutter, so too he is a mutter. It must be that the achila of all chametz is usher, right? It's only whether that it's learned. The sorah is learned from the after, right? Since after it's mutter on by goy, be mutter after, so too by a Jew. So that was only the question there, but not when it came to achila on Pesach. And Rav Ashi Omar, the Kuli Alma Ein Paidin, everyone agrees you can't go ahead and redeem it and give it to dogs. If you cause a loss to something which eventually be money, is not considered to be a cause of a loss because right now the mice is not worth anything. Over here, one who holds is Mel is like Rabbi Yossi because he holds, right, that chametz is mutter b'hana on Pesach. We saw that, right? His question was, how can you say, right, 7 days aser b'hana? It's mutter b'hana. So according to him, since it's mutter b'hana, therefore there is milah and one being five b'chayiv. And Uman Demer Lomal, the one says Lomal, Karabanan, who holds Karabanan, who holds there is an Isser Hana, right, of chametz on Pesach, and therefore since it's Isser Hana, therefore it's worthless, and since it's worthless, one has not violated mi'ilah. Fine. 2 dots. So 2 dots, smack in the middle of Chavtes Amabeis. So Omar Rav, says Rav, completely new Indian going on now. Chametz, Bismano, Chametz during Pesach. All right, during Pesach. Now, Bain Bimino, Bain Shelo Bimino. Now there's going to be a couple different concepts coming in. One of it is Bimino, right? One of it is of its kind, right? If you have something of its kind, right, then, right, usually, right, it becomes more strict, right? It can't be because it's one of its kind, so therefore it's considered to be part of it, as opposed to Shelo Bimino. So we'll see. So Bain Bimino, Bain Shelo Bimino during Pesach, Chametz Bismano. Right, that's gonna be one factor. Whether it's bimino, she'ena bimino, usher, it is usher. Right, there is no case of it's not a batal barov. Right, right. We're gonna explain the Rav. Right, bein bimino, ben shelo bimino, usher, shelo bezmano. However, if it is talking about afterwards, right, then bimino aser. Then if it's bimino, then it's aser because it's not batul, but shelo kamino. If it's shelo kamino, right? If it was a mixture and it was not this, it was not the same thing that was mixed in. It was something else, another species, right? Then if it was after Pesach and shelo kamino, mutter. Then it's mutter. Okay. So according to Rav, everything is aser bismano, right? Ben bimino ben shelo bimino, but leachar zmano, if it's shein of mino, then it's mutter. No, b'mayaskina. What are we talking about? If we're talking about when it gives flavor, right? Shelo b'zmano, shelo b'mino, mutter, right? Would you say afterwards, right? If it's shelo b'mino, it's mutter, it's nice tam, hayoyv tama, right? It's giving, it gives it flavor, right? Elo b'mashu. Rather, it means b'mashu, any amount. So any amount, even though it doesn't give flavor, but it's a very small amount. So according to Rav, the only time it's mutter is le'achar Pesach shelo kamino, right? That was Rav, okay? Now we're going to have another opinion. And chametz bizmano, and when it comes to chametz bizmano, ben b'mino, ben shelo b'mino, aser, right? Chametz bizmano, whether it's b'mino, shelo b'mino, is aser. And Rav Latami, Rav goes to Shitasa, and the Rav, Shmuel, Damar Tavai, both Rav and Shmuel say, Kol Isur and Shabbatayra, any is Shabbatayra, B'mino, B'mashu, right? If it's B'mino, it's B'mashu, any amount. Shelo B'mino, but if it's a different amount, then it's B'nai Same Tam. Then it's normally Nice Same Tam. So the question is, if it's Shelo Kamino, right? So let's say B'nai is only B'nai Same Tam, right? And Rav Gazer Chametz B'zmano, Shelo B'Pesach on Atomino. So, and therefore Rav is more machmer, because according to Rav, he's Geyser Chametz Bizmano, right? Shelo Kamino, Atomino. In other words, normally we'd say Shelo Kamino is mutter b'mashahu, but since, right, we're machmer when it comes, since by Chametz we want to be machmer, so therefore, since a case of b'mino is aser b'mashu, so too we'll say Shelo Kamino is also aser b'mashu during Pesach. So that was during Pesach. During Pesach, everything is aser, and the reason why Shelo Kamino is because of the gzeira of B'mino. Now, when it comes to after Pesach, right? So B'mino aser, Rabbi Yehuda. B'mino is aser like Rabbi Yehuda, who holds Chamas Lachar Pesach is aser, right? Shelo Kamino, Shelo B'mino, but Shelo B'mino is mutter. Why? And Shelo B'zmano, Shelo B'mino, Ata B'mino, Kulei Lo Gazrina. And therefore, but when it comes to Achar Pesach, then we don't make a gzeira of Shelo B'mino because of Mino le'achar Pesach. All right, so very simply, right, is sort of stated, not so simply, but very simply, Rav holds like this, right? We're going to Rav and Shmuel. Rav holds chametz, whether it's B'mino or Shelo Kamino, all right? In other words, and we're not talking about nice and time, right? Just a small amount, you can't taste the flavor, okay? Any amount of mixture, whether it's its kind or it's a different kind, and it's in it, on Pesach is aser. All right, according to Rav. After Pesach, if it's b'mino, then it's aser. Shelo Kamino, if it's a different kind, then it's a mixture, and then it's then we could say it's batel, and therefore it's mutter. That was Rav. Now, Shmuel Omar. Shmuel would say, chametz bizmano, b'mino aser, shelo b'mino mutter. Chametz, so he's going to be more meko. During the Zman, during Pesach, if it's b'mino, then we say it's not batel at all, and therefore it's aser. Any amount of chametz in there makes it aser. However, shelo b'mino, but if the chametz, right, is different and it's a small amount, then it's mutter. We can say it's batel, right, since it's not nice in time. And shelo b'zmano, it comes after Pesach, right? Shelo b'zmano, bein b'mino, bein shelo b'mino, mutter. Everyone says it can be batel, right? La'achar Pesach, whether it's its kind or its own kind, all cases are mutter. All right. So they argue actually on 2 points, right? They argue in Shelo Kamino on Pesach, Shmuel is Marmekel, and they also argue La'achar Pesach B'mino, right? Shmuel is also more Mekel and says it can be batel. All right. So that was the difference between Rav and Shmuel. All right. We're going to soon see a third opinion, but now let's explain Shmuel and chametz bezmano b'mino aser. And the reason why we say chametz now we're going to explain Shmuel, right? Chametz during Pesach, it's b'mino is aser, and Shmuel atame, and Shmuel l'shitas that we saw earlier. The Rav and Shmuel, they were tavai. Both of them say kol and Shabbatayra. B'mino aser b'mashu. If it's b'mino, then it's aser b'mashu, any amount. So therefore, chametz b'Pesach b'mino is always aser. right? And Shelo B'mino, and if it's a different kind, then it's B'nai Sein Tam. Then it's only if it imparts flavor. And over here, we're not talking about giving flavor. And Shelo B'mino, Ata B'mino, Lo Ygazer. And therefore, like Rav, who says, hey, Shalom Kamino is going to be usher just like Bamino is usher, will say no. Shmuel does not make a gzera of Shalom Kamino because Amino during Pesach. Now, so that was during Pesach. Now Shalom Bismano, when he says everything is mutter, right? Bein Baminon, Bein Shalom Baminon, mutar. All mixtures are mutter. Why is that? Because Rabbi Shimon, he holds like Rabbi Shimon because Rabbi Shimon holds that chametz after Pesach, right? Even if it was owned by a Jew during Pesach, chametz Pesach is mutter bana. So that was, we had Rav, who was the most machmir, and then we had Shmuel, who was makel in two of the cases, and Rabbi Yochanan Omar, chametz bismano, bein b'mino, bein shlokamino, aser b'nai sein tam. It's only aser if it gives flavor, right? B'nai sein tam. V'shaloi bismano. And afterwards, right? Bein b'minan, bein shaloi b'minan, all of them afterwards, they are mutter, right? They are mutter, any sort of mixture. Now, what's this svara? So chametz bezvano bein b'mino ben shaloi b'minan b'nai sein tam. Only if it gives flavor, it's aser. And Rabbi Yochanan Tami, Rabbi Yochanan goes to shitasa. Rabbi Yochanan ve'shlagish namer tavayo kol yisun shabbatayra bein b'minan ben shaloi b'minan b'nai sein tam. The only time a mixture is aser is if you can go ahead and be nice in tam. If you can taste it, but if you can't go ahead and taste it, then it can be batel. So therefore, he even argues with Shmuel in the case of b'mino, right? If you don't taste it b'mino, then according to Rabbi Yochanan is mutter, and according to Rabbi Shmuel, it's aser. And shalo bismano, and after Pesach, bein b'mino, bein shalo b'mino, whether it's its kind or it's not of its kind, and even if you can taste it, mutarin, they hold it's mutter. Why is that? Rabbi Shimon, because he holds like Rabbi Shimon, who holds that chametz la'achar Pesach is mutter b'hana. And we'll stop here. Tomorrow with Hashem, we will continue. It looks like it's going to the who's a halacha like, and we'll continue that tomorrow. Everyone have a wonderful day and a wonderful start of the week. And I guess if you're fast, you can probably get the show.
Scroll.